Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another broadcast. Today I want to talk about Last Jedi once again, or more specifically, Ryan's destruction of Luke explained via C.S. Lewis. A lot of people seem to like my first couple of reviews of my live stream, especially when I mentioned C.S. Lewis's commentary. So I figured I'd do that again since my wife and I were talking the other night about the movie, and I kind of brought this up. So one of the reasons, especially if you grew up, like I said, I grew up in the 80s and love Luke's character. And I was mentioning to my wife that in many ways, Luke became a Christ-like figure. Now, again, for the purposes of this review, I don't really, whether you believe, in the Christian faith or not, that doesn't matter. You could, for the purposes of this review, you could call it a fairy tale. If you're one of those flying spaghetti monster guys, whatever, just take it as a story. If you don't actually believe it, what I'm going to say still holds true. So Luke went from this kind of whiny farm boy, complaining about power converters, and over the course of his life, towards the end, he believed so much in, the Jedi's principles and their beliefs, and then you could say religion, so much that he went back to save his father, the darkest man in the galaxy, who killed untold, I don't know, we'll just say billions, taking out planets or whatnot. It's the darkest guy in the galaxy, and he believed up until his father's last breath that he could turn to the truth, he could turn to the light and be redeemed. That's a very Christian belief. So, you could go to the story of Christ on the cross. There's the story of the thief on the cross, right? So for those that don't know, Christ is being crucified, and one of the thieves, says, "Hey, you're God. Why don't you save yourself, man? If you're really who you say you are, all you have to do is think about it, and you're off the cross. So why don't you do that?" Now, I don't want to get into all the reasons why he doesn't, for those who aren't Christian right here. But anyway, the other thief says, "Hey, man, we're up here because we're criminals. We are justly being punished for what we've done, and you're hanging next to God right now, and you still are so stupid that you don't even have a little bit of humility or even fear of what you're saying. That's how much of an idiot you are." And the thief says, so again, if you believe Christ is truth, the embodiment of truth and love and justice, perfect justice tempered by mercy, he turns to Christ and he says, "Remember me when you're up in heaven." And Christ says that, he will see him in heaven. So up until that, this is on a deeper level, at a gut level, at a spiritual level. Everybody wants to believe that they can be loved no matter what they've, whatever their, sins, however they've treated other people. You're Darth Vader, and there's a part of you deep down inside that wants to believe that you are redeemable, and you want to believe that there's somebody out there who can still love you, and then you still have the opportunity to make amends and be forgiven for your sins. And that's what Luke does with his father. And his father turns to the light, and as we see after he dies, he has essentially been forgiven. He becomes one with the Force. So again, whether you like it or not, Luke has become this kind of Christ-like figure. You could even, if you want to talk about Buddhism or whatever, it's this, truly sort of enlightened being or whatnot, and that's where we left off at Return of the Jedi. So again, he's gone from farm boy whining about power converters to this is you know, he is a Jedi Master right here. All right? So if you're an older fan, and then you see what he's become, that's why you're so irritated. You see him milking aliens. He's become, essentially he's an infant again, drinking milk from the breasts of aliens. So this gets into C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis says, and Luke is very much a knight. The knight is a man of blood and iron, a man familiar with the sight of smashed faces and the ragged stumps of lopped off limbs. He is also a demure, almost a maiden-like guest in hall, a gentle, modest, unobtrusive man. He is not a compromise or happy mean between ferocity and meekness. He is fierce to the nth and meek to the nth. Okay? So that's from The Necessity of Chivalry, C.S. Lewis, Present Concerns. Again, Luke, very much a warrior, very willing to get his hands dirty, literally get his hands chopped off in the battle between good and evil, because he is a true knight, a Jedi knight. But he's also a meek guy. He's very gentle. He's able to go to these sort of, this medal ceremony, all cleaned up nice with the nice hair and jacket next to the princess and this, background with people, no doubt. Very soft setting. We'll just put it that way. This is a true knight right here, right? And again, in Return of the Jedi, going back for the darkest man in the galaxy. Everybody thinks he's beyond redemption, except Luke, because again, he's a Christ-like figure. Now we go to C.S. Lewis once again. He says, will the ethos of a classless society be a synthesis of what was the best in all the classes, or a mere pool with the sediment of all and the virtues of none? All right? So that's where we get Luke now. He's been degraded, infantilized. He's back to being a little baby. He went from the Christ-like figure, the religious master, the embodiment of mercy, and he's on this island alone. He's like I've said before, he's crazy old hermit, old man, PTSD veteran, stereotype, that sort of thing. So that's why guys like me are annoyed, because this is not the character would not have ended up like this. Now you say, okay, well, how did he end up like this? And C.S. Lewis again, from The Abolition of Man, says a great many of those who debunk traditional, or as they would say, sentimental values, have in the background values of their own, which they believe to be immune from the debunking process. Okay, so that's Kathleen Kennedy to a T. The Force is female. These are people with an agenda. They think that they are infallible. They think that they are right. They need to teach you a lesson. You are too stupid to understand why Luke needs to go backwards in time and become a little baby on an island who only survives because he drinks from the breast milk from aliens, and he gets creepy little... this is bitter. It's a bitter little... he likes it, but it's bitter in Rian Johnson's world. It's a little... Again, that is middle finger to fans right there. And on some level, that bitterness is Luke. That's Mark Hamill, almost. He's saying, I got millions of dollars. I got a lot of money for this, but I didn't want to do it, and this is a bitter pill to swallow. I'm doing it because I'm under contract. And so, again, same people who think that they're infallible. I've talked about this in my other one. The Wired crowd. The Last Jedi is the most intellectual Star Wars movie. I'll link to my other review. You could check that out. I don't want to repeat myself. But yeah, these guys, they have their own set of values, and they need to replace them. And I mentioned the C.S. Lewis quote about the classless society. That's the moral relativism of the Last Jedi. That's the Gray Jedi. I've actually had people tell me in the comments section, in at least one of them. One said something like, "It's the New World Order. Get used to it," but not like in a way where he didn't like it. Like, he seriously, that's what he wanted. Same thing, other people are, it's the young, what is it, Generation Z and millennials, and just like, get used to it, old man. If they're weird racial politics people, they'll talk about me being white. If they're feminists, they'll say, get used to it. You just hate women. No, I don't. I actually like the original trilogy with, Leia. He had no problem with her being a strong woman who could kill Jabba in an instant. Anyway, so we go on. C.S. Lewis again. In art, a whole civilization may at any time slip through men's fingers in a very few years and be gone beyond recovery. If we are alive when such a thing is happening, we shall hardly notice until too late, and it is most unlikely that we shall know its causes. Yeah, that's a very good point right there. Is a lot of times people, if you're living in an era, you're immersed in it, right? It's like a fish wouldn't really, I mean, it's a fish, so it's not really like doesn't have consciousness, but a fish wouldn't know that it's in water. It's just water is natural to it. Likewise, if you're living in an age, it's very difficult for people to grasp what's going on. Not everybody has the ability to objectively kind of step back and look and see what's going on and recognize the age that they're living in. And like I said before, there's a lot of people who they want to try and convince themselves that this is just the natural progression of where Luke would go, even though all evidence says no way. He would never go from this guy right here with his going back for his father, showing the ultimate in mercy and turning him to the light. You never go from that to disgusting, degraded, sad Luke. Just wouldn't do it. And it's a sad thing. Like I said before, this is bigger. The reason why I keep hammering this movie is because it is a cultural keystone. People say it's just a story. It's just for little kids. You take it too seriously. No, I told a guy on my blog the other day when he said that. Said I think you vastly underestimate the power of entertainment to shape culture, and I think ideologues are very, very happy that you would make excuses for a $200 million feminist propaganda film. Anyway, guys, that's just one more quick take for you. If you like these sorts of reviews where I, go to other authors from the past and let you know, how this all ties into the broader cultural issues, I could keep doing those. There's so much to be said about, Rian Johnson, Kathleen Kennedy, and the whole mentality that anything that is older, it's got to be thrown away. It's got to be killed. It's kind of indicative or emblematic of a culture that we live in where, every time the new technology comes out, there's a story about Apple slowing down its phones because it's got to get people to buy the new ones right away. You got a phone that's 2 years old. It works perfectly fine. You don't need it, for anything special, but they want to make you buy the new one. They want to make you in your mind. They want you to be an Apple drone. They want you to be a Disney drone. Whatever's new, whatever's coming out, that's the best thing. And anything that came before it, yeah, that's old. That's stupid. It's not intellectual enough for the wired crowd, and that's not true. A lot of times, things that are old have lots of wisdom in it. So whether it's Return of the Jedi or it's the Bible, you could find wisdom in older things. It could be a couple decades old, could be a couple nearly 2,000 years old. There's often a lot of wisdom in these things, and the Last Jedi wants you to believe that everything's gray. There's no good guys or bad guys. Live free, don't join. The Jedi must die. Everything's pointless. Very, very dangerous. And I don't think people realize the broader cultural implications for, like I said, a $200 million propaganda film that, millions, tens of millions of kids around the globe are soaking it up right now. All the messages in this movie. And it's not the Knight's, the Knight's Tale of C.S. Lewis. That's not what they're getting right here. They're getting demoralized, infantilized Luke Skywalker. Sad. So, all right, guys, if you like this sort of review, I will do more in the future. I'm not going to just do a Last Jedi review just for the sake of doing it. If I have something to say, I'll say it. But a lot of times when I read, these older authors, these older books, it ties into stuff like this. So I'm happy to do reviews like this going forward. So that's about it for now. It's pretty cold out here. That's why once again I got my flannel and got my little cap on. It is freezing cold here, and I'm just trying to keep warm. Thanks again for all my new subscribers, Patreon members, people that have donated on live streams. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.